Hello again, and welcome to Winning with the Wrangler at Dick Powell's Leadership Corner, brought to you by Earth, Wind, Fire, Water Training and Development, where our passion is building leaders of today and tomorrow. The information on today's program was gathered from many different places and many different people. If you hear yourself in this conversation, it's not all about you. Now, for speaking appearances or just going to get a hold of us, give us a call here at 727-422-1833 or send me an email, dick@ewfw.org. Now, today we're going to have a very special guest. Miss Robin, how are you doing today?
I am terrific.
I understand you're bringing to us a topic that is quite right out there in the world.
The now.
In the now. Well, tell me about this. What are we going to talk about?
The title is Wisdom of the Crowd plus Team equals Success.
Wisdom of the crowd plus team equals success.
Right.
Tell me more about this wisdom of the crowd. Where'd you come up with that?
I hadn't thought about it. I got it from a television show. So you need to give them credit. Mm-hmm. Thank you for the show. I missed it. I liked it. It had a lot of good ways for people to connect with each other and to solve problems, whatever the problem is. And I did use this within the past year, that process of just asking my crowd.
We're going to go into a little bit more in depth about that because what Robin and I have found is that by using a large team or a large group of people and doing the wisdom from that has really helped us discern some basic questions that we've been working with different groups around the country.
Right. It's actually helped with situations, individual situations, and then major situations in organizations I've been involved with, because I could target who I sent the information out to, and I tried to be very non-biased.
All right.
When I did that.
Let's take it a little more in depth. Go ahead.
Okay, okay. So when I chose the crowd, I didn't just send it to everybody. But I did. Yeah, that sounds bad in one way, but another way it's good because everybody else doesn't know anything about the organization, so they wouldn't have not been able to help.
Okay, so wisdom of the crowd. Everybody knows something.
Everybody knows something, and that was the wisdom. Was with all of the constant phone taping of situations, where you're recording everything everywhere. You never know who's recording what. So let's go back and say we don't know who's recording what, and how does that affect everything? Who knows what? And some people know things. They may know things that they experienced 50 or 60 years ago. They may know something that they just heard about, but it helps come to a better conclusion.
It helps the discernment process.
It helps the discernment process.
And this thing of everybody knows something, and to really start to put it into your normal way of thinking, to use this on a regular basis. We all have email and text and everything else. We can do it pretty easy.
We can do it pretty easy, and when we're talking to people also. But again, when you're talking with someone about this, pay attention to what they're telling you. Don't just blow it off. They might have some really little nugget that you really needed to know.
That would be intentional listening, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, active listening, intentional listening. Listen to what they're saying. Don't just blow them off, because we know we're smart, but we also know we don't know everything. Admit it, you don't know everything.
We're smart enough to know we don't know it all.
Right,
there you
exactly. Go. And we've been that way our entire lives. So, and we're getting smarter, but we still don't know it all. So pay attention to the people around you. Everybody knows something.
Now, Robin said that sometimes you need to pick your crowd. And what she meant by that is if this is a situation that has to do with a certain organization or a certain group of people,
right?
You need to stay within that group, because they're going to know the ins and outs. And this is where that person that sometimes never speaks up in a group will speak up and say something, and it'll provide that little nugget that you were talking about.
And it might not be in front of the group. It might be to the side.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I also want to tell you, when you're targeting a group, you can't pick and choose who in the group you're emailing, that whatever, because I use email for things like that. You have to send it to everybody in the group.
Okay.
You can't pick and choose.
But
you got to use everybody.
I wouldn't want to pick.
Even people that don't like you have to use.
I wouldn't want to pick your women's group for something that was happening in my men's group.
Exactly. Something similar might happen, might have something, but these were specific situations that I needed answers to, and I emailed a specific email group, and then I paid attention to what they had to say.
Now,
I really did.
Large organizations, can you see how this will really benefit the leadership in a large organization?
Right.
We work with churches and that type of opportunity. So a lot of times we have a lot of people sitting in the pews who are quiet.
Right.
But if they're given the chance to speak without being in public, or they can do it on a one-on-one, or they can send me an email or something like that, we all of a sudden find out,
Whoa.
wow, people really are interested.
Mhm.
They do want to be involved. They're just kind of gun shy, so to speak.
Well, they've
Of
probably been shot down in a crowd,
Oh, yeah.
in a live crowd. They've probably been shot down so many times they're just not opening their mouth anymore.
Yeah.
And I've heard we had this. I always refer to my older ladies as spare moms and crazy aunts.
Right.
So I had this crazy aunt lady who actually died this year, who used to come up with just stuff would pop out of her mouth, and you go, "Dang,
Where'd that come
spot
from?
on! That's the answer," or you've identified the problem or something. I'm like, why haven't we been listening to her more? She, like I said, just pops right out of her mouth. It was pretty good, and I found more and more people since I became noticeable of that. Basically,
Intentional.
Our foundation for all of our programs is churches and churches that we are involved with in other ways, and business networking groups. All of our profoundness is coming from people that we encounter.
I really wanted to bring that up. I was in a networking group just the other day, and a lady was actually speaking, and all of a sudden the group drowned her out, and she sat there in shock because she wasn't allowed to speak. Now that's what Robin means by being shut down and stepped over. And those people get to a point where they won't speak out in public, but they will speak to you on one-to-one.
Right.
After the networking opportunity, I sat with her for about 30 minutes and really found out that this lady has a lot to offer. It's just that when she put it out, she was kind of tentative about it. And people just automatically started running over. Now, that is something you really need to look out for.
Well, and one of the problems with that is sometimes when people are talking, like you said, she wasn't real secure in the group and secure when she was saying. She used way too many words.
Well, here's the thing:
you need to edit your. I do that a lot.
When we talk about this civility of speaking, and this goes with this and this wisdom of the crowd, this whole thing of stepping over someone and listening just enough to give an answer instead of intentionally listening to everything that they're saying. This is where this starts to break down. But this is where this wisdom of the crowd starts to pick up. Because I probably wouldn't have picked up on it if my good friend didn't nudge me and say, you need to talk to her afterwards.
You need to coach her.
Okay? Yeah. So that's where this all starts to go. So make sure that you're really being intentional about this. I'm going to also encourage you to make sure that each person that you include in this wisdom of the crowd has some kind of ownership within the situation.
Right.
In other words, they have a voice, and that you're going to listen. This is where the more thought process is better than the least process.
Right. And even if you start with the least process, you can always evolve with some of the things we're telling you to watch out for. So the wisdom of the crowd is that everybody out there knows something, and somebody knows what you need to be doing or can help you or whatever, somebody out there. And make sure they feel free and comfortable and appreciated for what they did, what they said.
That's really important, gang. Make sure that you do a follow-up with, thanks for that information. Thank you for getting back to me. Thanks for going on to it.
Right. And don't just say thanks for sharing, because that's a really ending thing. You need to actually be specific about it.
Try to be a little personal about it.
I appreciate it, what you have to say.
Yeah.
It made us think.
Everybody likes to thank you.
Yeah.
And everybody likes a little gratitude. There's no doubt about it. Okay, so show that to them. Be very open and honest about it.
And you'll get much further in the long run if you're gracious.
Now, Robin also put together on today's program this thing about creating a team.
Yeah.
She brought to me this thing of the wisdom of the crowd plus team equals success. And we really started putting a lot of time and thought process in this. And so when we started talking about creating a team, it really got to be pretty interesting as we were driving along.
Right.
And that's how we get most of our ideas.
We talk when we drive. One of the situations I know is that when you come in as either a member of a team or the head, the director of whatever an organization, sometimes you inherit a team, sometimes you inherit part of a team, sometimes you already know the team, sometimes not. Sometimes the team likes you, sometimes not. Someone just told me, and this is one of those wisdom things that popped out of someone's mouth when they were writing the back of my card to an event one time, was there's always two people in any team or committee that don't like you. And I went, oh, I knew there was one. I didn't know there was two. She says, oh, no, there's absolutely always two. Now, I had just met that person 20 minutes before that. And we are simpatico. I'm telling you.
I was going to hope she liked you.
Yeah. Well, it was. She's just always count on it. So understand that that's going to be one of your challenges. Now, you can work with them, or you can work against them, or you can really try to get rid of them. And all those things are legitimate ways. But when you're creating a team, or improving a team, or changing a team as the situation changes and the process goes on, you need to keep some things in mind. And the first thing is personalities.
If you are a leader and you inherited a team, right, I'm going to encourage you to put together some kind of personality assessment. And
my favorite is the pig one. I'm sorry. I probably brought it up before.
You probably ought to explain them what the pig assessment test.
It's called the pig personality test, and it requires nothing but a sheet of paper for everyone and something to write with. And from that, you don't even collect them. You just give them they gives you all the ins and outs of what the different parts of the pig mean and what this means, what that means. And they can either improve on their personality or accept it.
If you want us to send that to you, send us an email at dick@ewfw.org. Right. Write pig on it. Miss Robin will send the information.
I'll send you the hard copy. But that was the most profound and honest personality test I've ever encountered, and I have taken them all. Most of you have probably taken 2 or 3 or 4. I've taken at least that many. And they don't really change much over time. A couple of things sometimes. But your personality is your personality. And on the pig one, I'm telling you, you can't lie.
It is so important to know these things if you're the leader. But it is also so important to know who sits next to you and what your personality is and what their personality is. And see how we can mesh. We're not all the same, and we're all different in some ways.
That's very good.
Because if you have all real hard drivers in your room on the team, you'll get nothing done.
That's right, because they don't know how to actually do anything.
You've got to have the hard driver as well as the doer.
Yeah, you have to have the work.
And then you've got to have the person to ask questions and wants to know why.
The result of this personality assessment would be that you have at least 3 or 4 different personality types represented on your team.
Now, the reason we're saying this to you is it's so important. If you're taking over a team and you're coming in as the new leader, you need to know what you're working with.
Don't come in and think you're going to follow your own agenda.
But here's what I will tell you is, even in nonprofit organizations, you can gently and in a nice way ask people to leave the team and bring new people on the team.
Right. Again, before you join the team or whatever, make sure you have a copy of their bylaws and expectations.
That's a huge thing, Robin.
We're going back to that again. You got to have a copy of that to find out what the term is.
What do they expect from? What's the expectations they expect from you?
If you come in, you have those 2 people that are not going to get along with you because it's their choice, not yours. What their term is up, you can deal. Now, what happened to me, I got sidewinded because someone made a motion about the new term schedule starts with the new bylaws or the updated bylaws or whatever, which I had never heard before, but I'm going to be ready for next time. And so that meant that this one person I thought was going off right then and wasn't going to be there the next year was coming on for another 3 years.
Yeah.
That bit, let me tell you, that really poked me in the butt big.
All right.
So be aware of those things. We always reiterate the bylaws, the expectations, the job descriptions, all that.
This goes for if you're being asked to come on a board of directors
or anything, any kind of
team,
a team, a management team, the management committee, whatever.
We're just encouraging you, if you're the leader of this team, to ensure yourself that you know who the players are and how they work and how they think. So I want you to do something else. I'm going to encourage you to do the personality assessment in some way. I'm going to encourage you to take and have some kind of interview. And just to take and find out, you can talk about sports or swimming or whatever. It doesn't matter.
You meet at Panera with a couple people on the thing before you say yes and have a conversation.
Okay. Because you need to know some things. You need to know their backgrounds, where they came from, what's their worldview, or do they have a narrow scope? What kind of things do they know how to do or would like to know how to do? Where do they see themselves on the team, and those kind of things? These are huge pieces. And I'm going to encourage you to check their references and then check their references. And Robin's going to tell you why.
Because you're going to find out different information if you check the references. The references are someone who, again, if you've got job references on an application, it's going to be someone who's you think is going to speak well for you.
Hopefully.
That doesn't always happen. Just warning. But pick people who know you, have worked with you. If their references include people that they're neighbors with or they work with, that's not the same as working in your organization. And that's important.
And this is really huge. Mm-hmm. This is really huge.
You don't want that person to be in charge who's habitually 10 minutes late. It sets a bad pattern. No one trusts them. It sets a bad pattern.
Even if they have the best minds in the room.
And the greatest suggestions and everything else. People look at people badly when they're habitually late. They always look at them badly when they're habitually 30 or 40 or an hour early, because you can't keep track of your time. You're wasting an hour waiting. Again, it's the same. It's a balance. Try to be close to on time. Be a little bit early if you have responsibilities. For heaven's sakes, don't show up late 2 months in a row. Don't miss meetings regularly, all those things. But when you start looking at people or asking other things they've done, and you go, maybe somebody that was involved in that, you can go to them, and that would be a neutral person to find out in the interview process.
The reason I'm really encouraged to do this, I'm going to tell you a really terrible story. I sent out an interview. I interviewed for a job. I put down a person that I thought would be good for my references, and they were terrible on me. But fortunately, the person who was doing the checking called the reference on them and found out that this person really wanted the job themselves. And so therefore, what they were telling this person wasn't quite the truth.
Yeah.
This is where it really becomes important. The second reason is if they are their best buddies, they're going to give a great reference. But when you start doing a reference on the reference, you might find out things that are different.
Yeah, the things we don't talk about.
And this becomes really, really important. Sometimes people can fudge on the personal assessment. I will tell you, I've seen it done, and they don't answer things truthfully. So you are one way of mind, and all of a sudden you find yourself stabbed or shot and whatever.
Shocked, if nothing else.
and all of a sudden, now that one thing turns the whole team into a negativity crock pot. And those things, what that happens is then the meeting outside of the meeting starts to really deter what the team is trying to do. So having those expectations of what's expected of me and what's expected of you really starts to hit home here when we're talking about this whole thing of crowdsourcing plus team. The expectations oftentimes when I'm looking to help someone get a job proposal or any of those kind of things, we put it out to the crowd so we can say, what would you ask this person?
Right. And sometimes,
what would you want from this job?
What's your expectation? Sometimes I think some of those questions for an organization are better coming from another person, not from the person who's been interviewed. Like, how do you see this person fitting in? Maybe you knew them longer, maybe you just met them. What's your impression? Are they going to fit or not? You don't want people on a team that don't fit.
I often refer back to one of my Wranglers things is always trust your gut.
Exactly.
I'm going to tell you, when it comes to careers and relationships, you need to trust your gut.
Oh, and also don't completely disregard body language. Your intuition when you first meet people, all of those things, like we keep talking about, the way people dress and the way they stand and their presence speaks before they ever open their mouth. You've already made an evaluation if you've never met that person before about them by what they look like and what they act like when they walk into the room.
We all know that we were all raised with that little piece. Don't judge a book by its cover.
But it's false.
And I'm going to tell you that even my mother, who said it more than a bajillion times, she judged everybody as soon as they walked through the door.
Oh yeah, actually sometimes from their car.
And that's just the way people are.
I think there's a lot of human nature in that, and I think it's a lot of self-defense.
There's a self-defense mechanism.
I think it's human nature to do that, and everything else is just trying to change human nature. You can't really do that. Remember, so people do judge. They evaluate.
When we meet people, what we're doing immediately is trying to find how can we bridge? How are we building this bridge? How are we going to connect? And being intentional about it, I'm going to tell you, is hard work. It's not something that just you can willy-nilly through. You need to be intentional about it. And that's why this thing of when you're on a team, you're on a team. Mm-hmm. And that means sharing and opening. I've been working on a board of directors that I just came off of where no one talked to one another. And I found out the reason for that is the president kind of had a mandate that she didn't want anyone talking to one another unless you were in one of the board meetings, which only lasted 30 minutes. And most of the people on the board were executives and went, for 30 minutes, I'm just really not all that invested. So she wound up doing everything herself and got really burnt out. And now the whole organization is coming to a close.
It's imploding. Yeah.
So what we're trying to do here, we're trying to be very open and honest with you that when you're on a team, you're on a team.
And that means everybody has a responsibility to do something regularly, whether it, and hopefully it fits your skill set or it stretches you, which is not bad either.
If you're on a team and you don't have a function, you're not on a team.
Right.
And this is where this thing of the crowdsourcing plus team equals success. And that's what we're trying to really put forth to the leadership here that's listening, is to let you know how important this tool of crowdsourcing can be to your team. So each team member who has a function can use the crowdsourcing to help them build or find answers.
Right, or at least create some suggestions. Now, understand that all those suggestions that are created, when you make a suggestion, you should allow for objections.
Well, you're not going to use all your suggestions. There's no doubt about it.
And they should.
But what I look for is a commonality down through them. And I try to line them up. Well, all these people are saying the same thing. I'm pretty sure that's where we ought to head.
Let's go back to when I used the wisdom of the crowd to resource some situations I was having. Okay, at that point, I intentionally gave the information and tried not to be biased. Now, it was for me, so probably was a little bit biased. But I tried to use the facts only. These are the facts from my perspective.
As I know them right now.
As I know them right now. I always start everything as I know it right now. Give all the facts and say, where do I go from here?
Oh, well, that's good.
And I mean, that was all I wanted to know is what do I do now? I mean, honestly, I have no idea. What do I do now? I'm sitting on top of a flagpole up here, and people are waiting for me to fall off. So what came back was, first of all, a lot of affirmations for what I was doing, and I was doing the right direction, and then the direction to proceed.
Oh,
so that came from two really, really heartfelt requests out there. I will tell you, the other one was pretty huge, and I put it out to a national group and said, y'all know me a little. You don't know me a lot, but you know me a little. So what am I doing here? I got back a document that I could have used that would have really changed the direction and then a phone call. Someone said I can't write it down. It's too much. Had a nice phone call with somebody that we like and respect each other. We know each other, and her answer was, don't use that document unless you absolutely have to, because it's not the best document in the world. But it was done very quickly and for a lot of reasons, as you can read between lines, you know what those were. I said, yes, I understood that. She said, so keep it as a resource if you need it, but don't use it. And when you go to have this meeting with these people, don't go alone.
Okay.
So again,
I want to bring something in there that she said about a dozen times. One was relationship. One was trust.
Right.
You see, when you have the trust in the relationship, this intentional relationship, this trust builds, then this crowdsourcing works even better. You see, there's a trust that I can actually say, hey, Robin, this is my belief, or this is what I believe, and feel that the trusted response is going to have some weight to be listened to.
Right.
And so building trust in these things are paramount.
Well, again, trust and respect are earned.
I know.
I mean, a certain level, you start out level with Grandpa said, respect is earned. You start out level, and it comes and goes. It kind of comes and goes from that.
I just keep going back to that person telling me they didn't care about building any bridge. Right. I don't care about building a bridge. I just want to take and get it done. Mm-hmm. Well, you can't. That doesn't work.
It doesn't work. And honestly, a lot of people with that attitude would benefit from using the wisdom of the crowd.
Well, yeah.
Because it wouldn't be just a dictator saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It would be, you'd have some buy-in from the people, which is part of the other part of that.
Well, that's all about leadership. Without buy-in, you don't have any leadership.
So the buy-in comes from the wisdom of the crowd. And I think the more people would use that, the better, I think it would change society. Slowly, but it would make changes. It may change the organizations and the people and everything else. How upset do you get? Think about disciplining your children. How upset do I get about this or about that? I know parents that have gone completely off the ball because their child did something that I would have thought was completely innocuous. I would have said, do that again, I'm going to spank you maybe, or whatever. Or you got away. My thing was, I can't spank anymore. No. I'm sorry, I just wanted to get your attention. That you got away with it once, but do not ever try that again.
Well, that's what Grandpa told us when we started having kids, remember?
Oh.
If you don't want him to do it second time, don't let him do it first time.
Don't let him get away with it. You don't have to beat him to death. You just have to say, do not do that again. And the other thing we did, I didn't go out and tell people all the atrocities my children did. We only talked about the good things because they don't need to know that stuff. But again, the wisdom of the crowd. If you're having a situation with a child or something your child is involved in, is having a situation, go out to people and say, what do I do about this? I think that's why our granddaughter's in a mixed school now, homeschool, and then 2 days a week in a classroom. But all of those things have to do with, what do I do? I can't change this situation. This is the way it is, and it's just not working. How do I change it? And go with the crowd. And then you're not the big person with a target on your back either.
Well, I think, and leaders, what Rob and I are really trying to take and get across with today's message is, think about it. Intentional relationships really do build a way for you to use the wisdom of the crowd. Right. Intentional relationships really do build quality teams that work together. Right. Intentional relationships really do bring this all together to equal success in reaching the goals through the values that you've set down by your organization. This is where it all starts to really come together. And what we're seeing is organizations changed by using this method. Rob and I are seeing things, the way we do things, change by doing this.
We actually do pay attention to this stuff.
Yes. I've got a new book coming out now. I've spent a lot of time sending out information to get back information to take and say, what do you think? Is this the right road that I should be going down, or maybe not?
No one said stop yet, right?
No, actually, everybody told me to keep going, and it's kind of scary because it's a topic that I'm not real comfortable with.
Growing and stretching.
Exactly.
Wisdom of the crowd.
Wisdom of the crowd plus team can equal success. And Robin and I are just doing our best to share this with you, because what we're seeing is that we're seeing it work over and over in organizations and in families. So there you go. I see our time's coming to a close. On behalf of myself, Dick Powell, and the whole Leadership Corner team, we want to say thank you for being a part of today's program. Our hope is that you've received a nugget of wisdom and guidance that will help you build your leadership ability. Now, if you have any questions or comments on today's program, we encourage you to give us a call here at 727-422-1833, 727-422-1833, or send me an email, dick@ewfw.org, dick@ewfw.org. And when you know for sure that you're ready to take and have someone come and have a nice keynote speak with your organization, give us a call here and talk to the Big Wrangler. 727-422-1833. Send me an email, dick@ewfw.org. Miss Rob, you got anything else you want to say?
No. I'm sorry. Use the wisdom of the crowd. Build your team. Be successful.
All right, this is DW the Wrangler saying ride hard, ride fast.